Hello, and welcome to the Looking Place podcast, where we seek to guide our listeners through a journey of discovering your intrinsic power. I'm T.
And I'm Mel. Welcome.
Well,
Thank you so much for being here.
hello. What's going on, Mel?
Ooh, nothing and everything. How about that?
Every
Life has
nothing.
been, yeah. Life has been up and down, and it's still kind of exciting.
Yeah,
Um, I was home all week managing my health, my well-being, and it's good for me because I only work 3 days, well, was three now, it's 2 days a week. I typically don't take off because I could do everything around those times.
right.
However, it's just like my body just needed a break.
Good.
And so I'm excited about that. It
Good.
felt really good just to
I'm
kind of
glad that
manage
you
my
listened to your body.
yes, yes. Because a lot of times I don't listen
Yeah,
and I could hear the voice saying, you need to stay home. And
yeah,
I will go back and say, no, I don't need to
yeah,
stay home.
yeah,
I just want to go to work and I'll be home soon.
yeah,
But no, I need to just take a break and
mhm,
just listen.
yeah. I think
So,
a lot of us are guilty of that. So, yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So, how was your week?
Can't complain. Life was pretty good, and week was pretty standard. What you just shared kind of brought to my mind one of the things I do like to share with my patients, and something I just said to a patient yesterday, kind of regarding listening to the body. And we were talking about their pain, and
Mhm.
pain is one of those things. Number one, it's so subjective, right? But
Yeah.
also, a lot of times when we feel pain, and right now I'm referring to physical pain, we just suffer the pain, right? But we don't let it
Mhm.
communicate to us truly. And so, in terms of listening to your body, as you were just saying, sometimes I'll tell my patients, the pain is there, and obviously we don't want it to be there, but
Right.
instead of just suffering the pain, which is of the mind, why don't you just let the pain communicate to you? Because it's kind of, God's built in warning system, if you will, to let us know what's going on at any given moment and to bring attention toward. So I think
Right. Yes.
if you can maybe just shift your perspective a little bit and use it as information instead of just suffering the pain, and then just listen to your body. Just listen to it. Your body
Mhm.
wants to communicate to you. That's what it's trying to do. So don't be left in the dark toward it because you're focused in a way where you don't get that information and then be able to govern yourself accordingly. So that just I don't know why I said that, but that just kind of was
Yeah.
in line with what you were saying. So again, applauding the fact that you actually listen to your body. I think that's
I
important for
actually
people to
listen
know.
to my body.
That's a good
Yes.
thing. That's a wonderful thing.
I, I had an experience in 2000 where I actually had to stop working
Okay.
for a year and a half because of health challenges.
Mhm.
And so, as you were talking about listening to your body, I didn't listen to my body.
Mm.
And I was diagnosed, which you know me and diagnoses. I don't, they're not my diagnoses.
Right.
I hear what you're saying, doctor. So, anyway, I was doing this bout with diabetes. And
Okay.
so, the way that I found out was my brother came over and I said, oh, let me just check my glucose level. Out the blue, I said that. T, I'm doing good because I normally don't talk about this stuff.
Okay.
So
Let the Lord
I'm
use.
so proud of myself talking about it,
Yeah.
being transparent and vulnerable. And so when I checked it, it was 400. And I said, your machine is broken. And
Right.
so he changed everything, checked
What's going
his.
on?
His was 100. I said, let me check it again. It was 400. I said, it's just not possible. I wouldn't believe it. I went to the doctor. I got my A1C checked. It was 12.9.
Mm,
I'll never forget that number.
mm,
And here I was feeling like I'm very healthy.
mhm,
I exercise. Like, where did all this come from?
mhm.
And I remember there were times when I was at a patient's house, I didn't listen to my body. I would feel very weak
Mhm,
and just like out of it. And I
mm,
tell the patient, I'm sorry, I have got to leave. I'm not feeling well.
mhm,
Okay. And then I would get like that numbness, like neuropathy,
mhm,
paresthesia type.
mhm.
Okay. In my fingertips and in my toes, still. What would I tell my patient? Oh, you need to go to the doctor.
Right.
I didn't listen to my body.
Right.
And I just kept going, kept going. And my body was speaking to me.
Yeah.
And So long story short, I went, and that's when I found out that my A1C was 12.9,
Mm,
and I had fatty liver disease, which they called non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver,
mm,
diabetes, I had hemorrhoids, and I was in a very stressful job at the time.
okay.
So I had to stop everything
Right.
to manage my health, because if you don't stop and listen to your body, it will get
It
worse.
absolutely will.
It will get
Absolutely
worse.
will.
So, yeah, so listening to the body
Yeah. Yeah.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
very important.
And
Listening
it's good
to,
for people to know, on the topic of stress, people, again, I share with my clients what I've identified in my experience. Sometimes it really is the mental stress that is producing or at least even perpetuating
yeah,
the physical sensation. Stress really does manifest in a real physical way in the body
yes,
because
it
there is a
does.
very, very real, biological process that happens in response to mental stress. And if you keep that process going on in your body, it is going to manifest in all types of ways of illness and dis-ease or disease.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So that was my thing, and I was working at a job. One of my friends had told me she works 80 hours a week at a job, and I thought, "Oh my gosh." And she loved it, and I
Okay.
started really adding up all the hours outside of patient care
Mm-hmm.
that I spent with this job, calling
Mm-hmm.
doctors in the morning, calling patients, oh, you
Mm-hmm.
name it, doing paperwork late at night. It was 80 to 90 hours a week.
Goodness. Goodness.
That was, yes, and that was a lot, and it was a lot of stress with it,
Yeah.
so but I wasn't aware, we talk about awareness.
Right.
I wasn't using my awareness, the body was trying to make me aware,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I wasn't listening.
Yes.
I wasn't listening, so,
So once you
yeah.
kind of caught that revelation, if you will, or started to develop that intuition toward, hey, I'm not listening to my body right now. Can you, if you are willing to share, how did things kind of progress from you there in the journey of becoming aware and listening to your body?
So, I had to really I'm the type of person, which you guys probably know now, I'm gonna research everything. I'm just like the proverbial researcher. So I just really started researching a lot of different things.
Okay.
And I learned about energy, and I did a lot of energy stuff for a while.
Hmm.
And I actually started listening to Eckhart Tolle and talking about, read his books, and in his
Hmm.
classes, I did that. And
Hmm.
then I started learning about with alongside Dr. Joe Dispenza about meditation and
Okay.
the energy systems and all of that. And I went to his 7-day retreat. I've done so many things. And I even started learning about the nervous system last
Hmm.
year, because
Okay.
I know that trauma is stored in the nervous system.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I just put everything down. And then I'll go back to it. But what
Hmm.
I found is that, and this is where I am today, just listening. And if you guys saw the last podcast, you saw where T and I had talked, and we've had conversations before. But I think I was at the point now where it was time to really start to really go within
Yeah.
and to listen
Yeah.
to what the divine was saying to me. Because there is a lot of messages. Sometimes I just ignore it, that awareness, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Um, and I just don't always listen. But now I think I got to that point where, you know what, life is going to happen,
Hmm.
but let me go within and
Right.
quiet my mind.
Right.
Because, one of the things I learned, T, I've done a lot of different eating programs.
Okay.
I've been a vegan, a vegetarian, vegan, raw vegan. I've
Okay.
done keto, like I'll do all these things.
Right.
And it's seemingly like some things help. Um, However, it's not one size fits all.
Yeah. Yeah. Not at all.
So,
Not at all.
yeah, so I'm just really learning how to really go within
Yeah.
and listen to that awareness
Yeah.
from within, the God within, the
Yes.
divine within,
Yes.
and just to see what that God is saying, the
Yes.
divine is saying. And I used to have a time in my life where I did that. And I'll be honest, it was so strong that I was like, I don't want these gifts. No, 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 no. However, I'm back and I feel like I'm stronger. That where I was before kind of interfered with my religious upbringing.
Okay.
So that was a clash.
Okay.
But now I'm not that religious person. I just say that I'm spiritual and
Mhm.
I can accept the gifts that
Mhm.
God gives. Does
Oh,
that make sense?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely resonate with that. And, for anyone who's listened to any of our podcasts, you'll know that I'm, very vocal about the fact that a lot of my self-discovering journey has been greatly influenced by one of the spiritual teachers or leaders or guiders, if you will, called Mooji, Moojiji. I don't have any affiliation with him or his organization. Hopefully, I don't even get in trouble for keep mentioning his name, but I just want to give credit where credit is due because I've listened to a lot of spiritual teachers, leaders, and I've gotten something wonderful, in a sense, from everyone I've listened to. That God led me to the intuition toward listening to them. But it's Mooji's teachings in particular for me that have been the most direct
Mhm.
and the most effortless. And so,
Mhm.
I do very much, if anything, want to be able, in a sense, without just repeating what he says, bring some light to someone in that direction because it really can be simple if you allow it to be, but we also do
Yeah.
have to go through the process of it being complicated. That's all
Mhm.
purposeful. It's almost kind of like the notion that we came here and we forgot in order to have the experience of remembering, in order to have the
Yeah.
experience of transcending. And so, I know you kind of just recently re-engaged with Mooji's teachings or
Yes.
guidance.
Mhm.
So, how have things been going for you in that sense of discovery?
Yes, it's so funny you would say that because I forgot to mention his name. Because alongside Eckhart Tolle, I was listening to Muji at the
Mhm.
same time.
Mhm.
And I don't know, then I think I started doing the meditation with Dr. Joe. Like I
Mhm.
said, I go from so now when I talked to you that Friday, and I've been listening to a lot of his teachings, doing a lot of his meditations, I go to bed at night, and it really is like you said, just effortless,
Yeah.
just effortless, and it's just peaceful,
Yeah.
very peaceful,
Yeah.
and really, it's just kind of like the way I look at it, T, is I've been learning to observe myself for a long time, okay? Not saying that I always did it,
Mm,
but I've been learning to do
yeah.
that in different forms because just
Mhm.
different people teach it differently.
Mhm.
But when, some people like Dr. Joe talks about the quantum field.
Right.
Um, so, and I would envision myself kind of like out in space as an awareness out in space. And then Muji talks about it like the sky.
Yeah.
And so lately I've just been like, in the sky. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I close my eyes because
No.
I take
Yeah.
myself there.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about it, I
Yeah.
actually feel myself going there.
Yeah.
And just that awareness in the sky. And this morning, I kind of woke up like a little heavy, like, oh, this is happening, this. And then I just started doing this and just seeing myself up there. And I was looking down
Mhm.
at all the thoughts and I just let them be. I didn't entertain them.
Mhm.
I didn't have a conversation. I was just like, and not to say that I didn't. When I did, I caught myself like, oh, you starting
Oh,
to
beautiful.
entertain that thought.
Yeah.
And then I could just let it go.
Beautiful.
Just let it go. And it is a very peaceful, just a very peaceful place to be in. And I think for me, it's very helpful because I've been a controlling freak all my life. You know how they say a control freak?
Mhm.
I've I just tried to control my every step.
Right.
And there's there's nowhere to get to,
Yeah. I
and
would think.
there's nothing to control. Just let life unfold.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, wow, if I just let life unfold and just be, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. I don't have to control my children's every step. Okay, are they doing this? Or my husband's every step. That's how it was. And so, anyway,
I love that.
feel just very peaceful.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah. And as you
yeah.
said earlier, everything isn't for everyone. So anyone who has an intuition, anyone who is in their mode of seeking right now, right? It's all purposeful. Every part of the journey is purposeful. There's no part of the
Mhm,
journey that has no purpose or was a waste of time or a waste of effort or energy. And, as we even said earlier offline, for me, it was my experience, and I can only reflect on this now, that the moment when I was at my absolute moment, at that
mhm,
time, I didn't realize it, but that was the most profound and beautiful moment of my life when I was just
mm,
completely done and didn't want to do it anymore. When I was just
mhm,
like, okay, God, I'm sick of it all. Like when I was at my perceived lowest place, that
mhm,
was the most opportune time for God to step in for me. So I say that for anyone who feels that sense of self-loathing or unworthiness or whatever, like I would never downgrade or disregard mental health issues. But one thing I want people to receive in their heart is that all
mhm,
suffering comes from the mind, every last
mm,
drop of it.
mm,
All suffering comes from the mind. And I'm not saying that physical illness isn't a real thing, or loss of a loved one isn't a real thing, or loss of income. Any of those worldly experiences that we have as the person, those are real to the person, yes, but the suffering can only be created by the mind. And so if you can
mhm,
just allow yourself the intuition to just let that settle peacefully in your heart, that's a good starting place, because then what that does is help you to understand that there is a place beyond the mind that's not moved or phased, right? And so when we
mhm,
talk about the ability to be aware, that awareness is simply to be able to manifest by way of saying, okay, I now can see what the mind is doing, but I
mhm.
also know that that's not who I am. And I say that, I
Yes,
to use one of the analogies that Muji uses, if you were to put yourself up on a movie screen, like if you were to watch yourself as though you're watching a movie, right? When we watch a movie, we don't necessarily become involved in the movie. We watch the movie kind of with a sense of detachment, like, oh, look what that person's going through. Oh, I can tell that person's
right.
angry. I can tell that person's happy. That person's in love.
Mhm,
We
mhm,
see the movie. We're not involved in it. We witness it. And
right.
so it's kind of that sense early on where if you can just allow
Good
yourself to be the
analogy.
witness of what you're going through, detached from it. So like you said, you have that thought, you know that your inclination is to follow that thought because that's how our conditioning works. But then you have the awareness, oh, I don't have to follow the thought though. I can be aware of the thought, not attached to it, and just watch it pass. Because
You just
here's the thing that I hope any person, no matter whether you're spiritual, not spiritual, nothing in this world is permanent. There is nothing in this manifest world that is permanent. Our bodies are changing from the time we're born to the time we return to spirit. Our physical environment is ever changing and evolving. Our mental processes are ever changing and evolving and fluctuating. There is absolutely nothing in this physical world of matter that is permanent. But there is something that is permanent, that is unmoved by time, by conditions, by space, but that's the God energy. If you can have the awareness that that is the true self and that the person is here to go about life, let that settle. So that's why I say with Muji's teachings for me, because I feel like to a degree, this is something I've already possessed as far as knowledge. I believe very firmly I came into this world knowing this. I just forgot. And so Muji's teachings have helped me to remember in the most simple, non-complicated, non-working way. And so however you receive it and connect, do that. But let your seeking be genuine, because if your seeking is genuine, trust me when I say, and it is only by the grace of God, if your seeking is truly genuine, understand the mind can't take you there, and understand there will come a point when there's no longer a seeker and you are just in your God energy. That will happen for you if your seeking is genuine. And so, I think that the journey that you've been on has been a beautiful journey, and I hope that you don't regret any part of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, white picket fence. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nothing wrong with that, but yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all by the grace. I said it's just all by the grace. It really is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That makes me think for even in my journey, one of the biggest kind of forms of mental bondage or suffering that I've been, trying to transcend. Well, I'm no longer trying to, but had been, in the process of trying to transcend for quite some time, was my journey with my sons, and far as just feeling so much guilt and shame on how I kind of had them in a toxic environment, beyond their own control, beyond their own will. I kept them in an environment, in their home environment, that was not healthy. And, I can name a myriad of reasons why I stayed in that situation myself. But ultimately, when I did come out of that situation, physically come out of the situation, I reflected on the fact that, damn, I really kind of might have effed my kids up in an effort of having a two-parent household. I had them in this environment that was so not good for them. Like that for me was just such a heavy burden to carry. Because if anybody knows me, they knows they know my sons are like the center of my world, so to speak. And I'm sure that's true for any well-meaning mother, but I'm talking about mine. Okay, I'm serious about. And so, and I have a beautiful relationship with my sons. I really do. And so, in letting go of that burden, I had to realize, okay, but this was still a part of their process. And maybe, my actions, whether they be voluntary, involuntary, conscious, or subconscious, it doesn't take away from the fact that it's still God. And so, their journey is their journey. And even as I look at them today, the men that they are today, I'm like, they're so wonderful. Like, how could I have any real regret? You know, Obviously, if I could, go back and say that I wish certain things didn't happen in their life, maybe, but then would that alter who they are? And if so, I don't know if that would be for the good or for the bad. And so they're so wonderful in the present. I can only thank God for God's grace that they are who they are now, and understand that everything that they've been through has been a part of that. Same for myself and same for us all, really. And so as we talk about, kind of, and I don't even know if we're just being led in the spirit right now. We had no idea what we were going to discuss. We didn't discuss what we were going to talk about ahead of time. So this is all God.
So thank you for sharing that. And also, I just want to thank you for sharing your knowledge with me, because it's amazing how life just kind of happens, where it's almost like God puts people in your life
Hmm.
at a certain time. Because
Hmm.
when I got the message, it was like a download. You need to start a podcast, and you need to you start with T. You guys need to do it together. And I was thinking, I said, I don't really want to do a podcast.
Right.
It's really not my interest.
Right.
And but that message was strong.
Yeah.
And so pick up
Yeah.
the phone, do a podcast.
I'm like, girl, me?
T.
I'm not even on social media at all. You sure me?
Like, how's this gonna work? I'm not on social media.
But to God be
So
the glory. Yeah, to God be the
yes.
glory. I'm glad that
And
we both listened to the intuition. I was like, well, listen, I'm happy to talk. If there's something I can share that might help the people, I'm happy to talk.
right.
So
Yes,
ultimately,
yes.
and we were talking about this earlier offline too, when it comes to the place of us, following the intuition to share in this way on a platform for me that's so foreign to me. Like I literally, you can go on my socials. There's not much happening there. They exist, but there's nothing because I'm not interested in engaging that way. But when it came
Mhm.
to me coming before God to, get clear, get clarity as to whether or not this was supposed to be a part of my journey,
Mhm.
what kind of resonated with me and what's continuing to resonate with me is if God is giving me an intuition
Mhm.
to share in this way, it shouldn't be of me. It's the intuition of God, and it's the grace of
Mhm.
God. So therefore, I don't have to be overly concerned about what my social media presence is, or trying to say the right thing, or trying to not say the wrong thing. Just speak from that place,
Mhm.
and so,
Mhm.
I'm grateful that we are on this journey together, whatever manifests of it. But, I want to
Yeah.
give people permission to understand that it can be simple if you allow it, and it can start very simply by just the or the intuition to know that you are not your mind, you are not just your person,
Yes.
and you
Yeah.
can choose to put that down and really connect with God, or you can choose to operate in that space. There's no right or wrong to it, but if you just have the intuition to know that you are not your mind and you are not your physical body, that's not your true self, start
Mm-hmm.
there and let grace take you the rest of the way.
So, T, what would you say to people who are religious and they hear this and they're thinking, "Ooh, that doesn't sound like it's of God"?
I
How
understand that.
where's that in the Bible? Or
Yeah, yeah.
you?
I can to answer that question, because again, I like to be me. The person likes to be very careful in discussing religion, because I
Mm-hmm.
never want to offend anyone or create any division. But that
Right.
being said, my experience with religion at the time that I was really practicing in Christianity, I made God, and I think this is where kind of in general, and I hope I'm not offensive, we personify God in Christianity often, and maybe in other religions. I haven't practiced other religions, but we make God such a person, like a punitive God, a vengeful God, a God that can punish or
Mm-hmm.
bless, a God that can save or condemn.
Judges so
Like
much.
and as I was practicing Christianity and trying very hard to adapt to this belief system, there was always something inside of me that could not fully connect with that, because I'm like, okay, if God can judge me and punish me or reward me or make me happy, how is God different than a person for me? And so that was
Mm-hmm.
my question. Is like, God, this doesn't feel, the way I'm connecting doesn't feel like it's the signal is off. If
Mm-hmm.
God,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, we're making God kind of petty. Like, and so
Mm-hmm.
for me, and I never intended to walk away from religion. It never was in my mind that I don't want to be a Christian. As a matter of fact, just to share some of my journey, when I was kind of transitioning away from practicing religion, in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning for me, it was very difficult in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of everything that I had been conditioned to believe was like, no, I can't, like there can't be another way to do this, because then everything would have been a lie. And so I did a lot of this self-condemning and just really like almost like God pulled, and I hate because I'm going to personify God, but in a sense it was like I didn't walk away from religion peacefully. Like I did not
Okay.
intend to leave Christianity. It was a very natural and organic progression. But then when I started to connect with God again in this very effortless way, that I could at least for a moment feel like I can put down the self judgment, I can put
Mm-hmm.
down the self condemnation, I can
Mm-hmm.
put down the ego, I can put down all of the identifiers, whether I consider them good or bad identifiers, I can just put them down and
Mm-hmm.
connect with God in a way that I never felt the connection before in my experience. And so it just took me to understand that the God I believe I serve is just love,
Mm.
just the source of it all. God
Mm-hmm.
is the source of every manifested experience we have.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a man or a woman. It's not good or bad. It's not evil or these are words that we've put in context to have to conceptualize and experience in life, but God is not that. And so
Mm-hmm.
I don't really, and I'm never suggesting anyone to walk away from their religion. If you're practicing your religion in a very peaceful way that you do feel like you're truly connecting to God,
Mm-hmm.
to continue to do that. That's a beautiful thing. But for a lot of us, what we experience in religion is just it's just suffering. It's just suffering for the sake of suffering.
I got
And
that.
and so
Mm-hmm.
again, if you have an intuition toward wanting true freedom that's not conditional, I feel like you have to first at least be able to allow yourself the freedom to know that a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking over and over and over and over and over, and you
Mm-hmm.
hold it to be true. That's what a belief
You
is.
hold it to
But
be
by
true.
virtue of that, you can also
Mm-hmm.
choose to not have that thought and belief. And you
Mm-hmm.
can make it, and that's the beauty of this God source energy. We have this ability to be aware, to have perception, to make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's the human experience that we get to have, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't generally have it within our God energy. We have it within the context of operating from person and mind. And
Mm-hmm.
so the longest way to answer your question, I would, you know, when it comes to a person who feels like they may have an intuition to not practice the religion that they're practicing, just know that God is not found in a book or a building. God is here.
Mm,
If
mm-hmm.
again, I use the analogy of, or Muji's analogy, if God is the creator, we are creation. And so by
Yeah.
virtue of that, we possess all the qualities and attributes of God. God can never
Mm-hmm.
be apart from you. So you choosing to not engage in the practice of your religion, God can never not love you for that. God is not a conditional. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of rambling now, but that would be at least the way I would try to help someone peacefully within their hearts know that God doesn't require that you do anything. The
Mm-hmm.
doing part of it may be necessary for the journey and for the seeker. But when you come to that place, and hopefully prayerfully so many of us are, you'll realize there was never any separation between us and God. We are a
Like there,
manifestation.
yes, there is no separation. And that is so beautiful because a lot of times growing up, that's how I felt,
Yeah.
just that there was a separation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you feel separated from your creator, it's almost like if you feel separate from your parents, there's that abandonment
Exactly. Yeah.
that's going on up underneath.
Yeah.
And so just when I really learned a few years ago that, hey, God and I are one, there's no separation, it was just a very beautiful thing. I
Yeah.
do want to say, um, there's a book I read about maybe 3 years ago called The Surrender Experiment. Have you heard
Mm.
of it?
I've not.
By Michael Singer.
Okay. No, I've not.
It's a beautiful book, and it
Okay.
really is based on a lot of this, except
Okay.
he's an American, but he learned about the teachings of, what is his name? Yokonama or something. I forget
Okay.
his, yeah. But, so he started reading that book, and he was in school, I think at University of Florida in Gainesville, to get his PhD. And I want to say economics.
Okay.
And he started meditating, and he found his peaceful sweet spot. And
Okay.
that's all he wanted to do,
Yeah.
was to do that. And
Yeah.
his life started to unfold before him without him doing
Right.
anything.
Right.
And he ended up dropping out of school.
Okay.
He got, I want to say he got like this camper, and that's what he would do all day long.
Okay.
And this guy ended up having a multi-million dollar software company.
Okay.
Not because that's where he wanted to go, but through his meditation, it just all unfolded.
Yeah. Let life be
And
life.
yes, and it
Yeah.
was such, he just said it was such a peaceful place. Like people thought, and he has a retreat center where you can go, and I
Okay.
guess he does like these silent meditations, is
Yeah.
what somebody
Yeah.
told me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
somebody I'm in a group with said that they had been there, and it's like kind of what we're talking about with Muji, almost like just a silent, peaceful meditation.
Yeah.
And that's what, when Maurice and I, we actually listened to it when we were traveling on Audible, and it was just like OMG. Like as he was talking, we could feel the peace
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what
It's
I think.
interesting that you say that though, because one thought that I've been able to reflect on is the fact that when I was practicing Christianity, very genuinely wanting to connect with God, at that time in my life, there was the notion to surrender, right? And I remember
Mhm,
feeling like in that particular space and phase of my life, I would go to the altar and I'd cry and I'd lay out and I'd feel the spirit. And I would say words to myself like,
mhm,
God, just infiltrate my spirit, because my surrendering felt very much combative. It felt like a
mhm,
war was happening, right? And so my notion of surrendering was almost it was not peaceful. And
mm,
so as I started to, like I said, just very naturally, organically transition away from practicing religion, my surrendering took on a different energetic feeling. My surrendering
mhm,
became a peaceful surrendering. And it was
mhm,
still the notion to surrender, but it was the energy and the perspective that this is a peaceful surrendering. And quite literally,
mm,
the warring that I felt, and there were times, like I said, when in my life where I literally, did not want to be alive anymore. That was in my mind, an extreme form of separation anxiety. You know, when we talk about
Mhm.
anxiety, it was a separation anxiety. What was my
Mhm.
separation anxiety? I felt separated from God and didn't know how to put language to that. But my spirit, there was a separation anxiety that was going on in me that made me feel like there was a war happening. And so, you know,
Mm.
again, not to ramble, but I say that to say, you know, when you come to this place that you want to surrender, I believe the surrender should feel peaceful. It should feel like a
Peaceful.
peaceful surrender. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And that's what I feel like the divine is about,
Mm.
peace.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
peace. So
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much, T. It's just always
Always. Always a
a
pleasure.
pleasure.
Always
Always
a
a
pleasure.
pleasure to do this. Because even doing this itself is just like, oh, so peaceful.
Yeah.
So just having this conversation, it's
Yeah.
just so peaceful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much. And
Absolutely.
thank
Oh, my
you.
pleasure. My pleasure. I'm grateful. So much
Yes,
gratitude. Thank you for anyone who's taken the time to listen and
yes,
felt any connection to this. Let it settle peacefully in your heart and, you know, let your journey be beautiful.
yes. And if you have any thoughts or comments or you want to reach out, please feel free to do so.
Please. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much.
much. Peace and
Okay.
blessings.
Bye bye. Peace.